When we wake up in the morning and have had a dream during the night, we just say, "It was all a dream," and carry on with our daily lives. But have you ever wondered what the difference is between the real world and a dream? Is it that we are able to perceive what we refer to as the real world by means of our senses? But how would we prove reality if we one day lost all our senses? These questions, nearly as old as mankind itself, have been the subject of much scientific inquiry. The interesting thing is that the subject has recently been the subject of several box office record-breaking films. These films have attracted so much attention that the debates over them continue, even though they are no longer on general release. In this film, we shall be evaluating facts about the true nature of matter by examining a few of the films in question. We shall see how the world we imagine to be real is actually a collection of illusions experienced in our minds. Neo is a computer programmer working for a large software firm. He has not the slightest doubt that his life is real. Yet he is mistaken. Neo actually lives in a totally artificial world. His real body is in a capsule-like device filled with a special fluid. Like millions of other human beings around him, he is made to live in a vegetative state by the machines that rule the world. His brain is connected to a computer equipped with the most advanced technology. A virtual world has been created in Neo's brain by a program in this computer known as the Matrix. He sees only what he is shown and can experience only what he is made to feel. He imagines that what he experiences there and the life of the late 20th century are actually real. The fact is, though, that he is being kept immobile in a kind of suspended animation in a capsule in 2199. In short, the life that Neo imagines to be real actually consists of perceptions artificially generated in his brain by a computer. A group of humans led by their leader Morpheus, who have escaped the clutches of the machines, are aware of this. Morpheus separates Neo from the computer and rescues him from the machines and enables him to become aware of the Matrix. He will also teach him a great deal he does not know. He reveals, for instance, that so far, everything Neo has seen, heard, smelled, tasted, and felt has no physical reality, and proves to him that all his experiences were imaginary impressions created in his brain. Virtual reality and a world made up of electrical signals. Neo first has to understand the basic logic of the Matrix. The Matrix is a highly advanced computer program that creates virtual reality in the brain. The world that Neo imagines himself to live in is just part of this program. After freeing Neo from the Matrix, Morpheus and his men began educating Neo with a program similar to the Matrix that they have prepared themselves. Neo lies down in a chair with wires attached to his head and waits for the software to be loaded for his education. When the loading is complete, he opens his eyes somewhere totally different. His appearance is very different. His clothes have changed and his hair is longer.
This is the construct. It's our loading program. We can load anything from clothing to equipment, weapons, training simulations, anything we need.
Right now, we're inside a computer program?
Is it really so hard to believe? Your clothes are different, the plugs in your arms and head are gone. Your hair has changed. Your appearance now is what we call residual self-image. It is the mental projection of your digital self.
Neo still does not believe he is in a virtual world. He is also terribly confused about the subject of reality.
This isn't real.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Morpheus's reply reveals a most striking truth. What we call real is actually an interpretation of electrical signals transmitted to the brain. We perceive the outside world thanks to our five senses. This, however, is no proof that we are dealing with the material equivalence of what we perceive in the outside world. For example, we cannot say, "There is a table here," just because we see one. Because the eyes that see the table are merely an agent. There are receptor cells at the back of the retina in the eye. These cells turn the photons that land on them in an electrical current, and nerves then carry that current to the visual center in the brain. The visual center in the brain interprets this electrical current and forms an image. In other words, when we say, "I see something," we actually see the effect created in our brains by the transformation of the light waves reaching the eye into electrical signals. All these facts we have described regarding the sense of sight also apply to hearing, touch, taste, and smell. We perceive each one of these in relevant centers in the brain. We can never make direct contact with their counterparts in the outside world. In fact, when connected to the matrix, Neo too does not actually see those bright, vivid images with a physical eye. The things he imagines to see are actually an interpretation by the brain of the signals reaching it.
What are you doing?
Your muscles have atrophied. We're rebuilding them.
Why am my eyes hurt?
You've never used them before.
One character in the film The Matrix makes the following comment with regard to the food he eats.
You know, I know this steak doesn't exist. I know that when I put it in my mouth, the Matrix is telling my brain that it is juicy and delicious.
It is, therefore, a grave error to say that the world we live in is real simply because we perceive it. The world we perceive is merely a reflection of it in our brains. To put it another way, no matter how realistic it may be, the world we perceive consists of an illusion in our minds. Today, computer-generated three-dimensional images can be presented to people as if they were real, and this is described as virtual reality. For example, assistant practitioners at Michigan University, particularly the personnel of emergency wards, first receive training in a virtual operating room. Using three-dimensional glasses, they gain experience on virtual patients. Neo continues his education in a simulated environment, and the subject is once again the Matrix. In the Matrix, everything is the same as the original objects. People, buildings, cars, even the traffic regulations people abide by as they walk along the streets.
When you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. Who's it?
This isn't the Matrix.
No. It's another training program designed to teach you one thing.
Neo looks around in astonishment. He has now begun to see the truth. Everything around him is part of the illusion he is living, and there is no reality to them. The world Neo imagines to be real is nothing more than a simulation. Cars, the noise of the city, the traffic, skyscrapers, the ocean, people, in short, everything, are just images forming in his mind. It is clear that the reality in daily life is just like in this film. Yet most people are sadly unaware of this. Although it may appear exceedingly convincing, nothing around us is actually real. The material world we refer to as real is merely a collection of perceptions in our minds. Morpheus and Neo are now sitting in front of a television. There are images belonging to the Matrix on the screen.
The world that you know. The world as it was at the end of the 20th century. It exists now only as part of a neural interactive simulation that we call the Matrix. You've been living in a dream world, Neo. This is the world as it exists today. Welcome to the desert of the real.
The world seen by Neo and that shown by Morpheus are totally different. The images that Neo imagines to be real are actually pictures of a world he wishes to see. Neo has hitherto thought that he was in a real world and had never harbored any doubts as to that reality. In other words, he was quite unaware that the world was an illusory one. Billions of people living in the world today are in exactly the same position. Neo is now preparing for combat training. He finds the simulated environment he enters highly realistic and is therefore very excited. Yet he is still lying down motionless while all this happens.
How about combat training? Jiu-jitsu. I'm going to learn jiu-jitsu. I know kung fu.
Show me. This is a sparring program, similar to the programmed reality of the Matrix. It has the same basic rules like gravity. What you must learn is that these rules are no different than the rules of a computer system. Some of them can be bent. Others can be broken.
People today can feel themselves to be somewhere very different to where they actually are. For example, Stereo images are reflected off all the walls and floor of this room. People wandering around this room with stereo glasses imagine themselves to be somewhere very different. They can even react to the things they see and hear as if these were real. The truth is that there is no need for an outside world in order for us to imagine ourselves to be somewhere very different, because everything we imagine we experience actually takes place in our minds. We can therefore never make direct contact with the original of matter. In other words, everything we perceive and are sure exists throughout our lives is actually images and feelings forming in the brain. Another film to examine the relationship between the real and virtual worlds is Vanilla Sky. David Ames runs a large publishing business. The people in his environment admire his physical appearance, financial status, and social circle. Until his face is ruined in a traffic accident. David Ames then signs a contract with a company. Under the agreement, the company will enable him to have a lucid dream. Meanwhile, his body will be kept in a special location. David Ames thus goes on living in a virtual world. He touches the objects around him in the virtual world, eats, laughs, and enjoys himself as if these were all real. In one scene, the lead character, David, is speaking with a doctor who asks whether he can distinguish between illusion and reality. David is at first certain that he can. Yet as he strives to recall events in his memory, he eventually becomes uncertain and says that he cannot tell the difference. Interestingly, while he is saying all this, he is actually living in an illusory world being shown to him.
Who is the man in the restaurant? Who is it?
I can't.
Can you tell the difference between dreams and reality?
Of course, can you?
Think about it. Think with your head. You signed a contract, did you not?
I signed something.
Was the man in the restaurant there? Accept your body's resistance. Let your head answer.
Yes.
That's right. Who is Ellie?
David, living within artificially induced dreams, genuinely believes in the reality of his past experiences. The same is true for many people's present lives. No matter how adamant people are that the images, voices, or feelings they interact with are real, these are only copies existing in the mind. In other words, imaginary copies of things they can never actually reach. Our own situation is very like that of the character in the film. Everything in the world we live in is under the control of God, and every tiny detail has been created as part of a test. Someone who knows that throughout his life, God creates all the events he sees, all the sounds he hears as images in his brain, will submit to God, the creator of us all, the infinitely compassionate and merciful, rather than falling victim to fear, empty despair, and panic. In one verse, God reveals, "If God helps you, no one can vanquish you. If he forsakes you, who can help you after that?" So the believers should put their trust in God. Another film on this subject is The 13th Floor. Los Angeles, 1999, the 13th floor of a business block. Hannon Fuller and his colleague Douglas Hall have created a very special computer program. Those who enter the program will find themselves in the Los Angeles of 1937. And all the information required about it will be transmitted to their brains. One day, Douglas Hall is connected to the simulator and finds himself in this fascinating world under a new identity. It is 1937, and in that virtual world, he is a bank cashier named John Ferguson. In reality, his body is lying connected to a simulator in 1999. Everything in this world Douglas Hall has joined is exceptionally realistic. Cars, people, clothing, everything in short, bear the hallmarks of 1937. Yet not one of these images is real. They are all images in Douglas Hall's brain, formed by electrical signals from the outside. Modern technology allows people to experience feelings produced by artificial signals as if they were real. By means of special gloves, people can feel that they are stroking a non-existent cat, shaking hands with a non-existent person, or touching a virtual object. A most important conclusion may be drawn from this. The existence of an outside world is not necessary for us to feel that what we experience is real. Aston is one of the characters living in 1937. One day he reads a letter that he should not be reading, written by the creator of the program, Hannon Fuller. And he learns the great truth. He has spent his life in a virtual world. Aston is furious. He immediately goes to Douglas Hall and demands to be told the truth.
When I first read it, I thought it was a gag. The world's a sham, fat chance. But I'm not stupid, Mr. Hall. And all that stuff about going to the ends of the earth.
What stuff about the ends of the earth?
I did exactly what the letter said. I chose a place that I'd never go to. I tried to drive to Tucson. I figured, what the hell? Never been to the countryside. And I took that car out on the highway. I was going over 50 through that desert. After a while, I was the only car on the road. It was just me and the heat and the dust. And I did exactly what that letter said. Don't follow any road signs and don't stop for anything. Not even barricades. But just when I should have been getting closer to the city, something wasn't right. There was no movement, no life. Everything was still and quiet. And then I got out of the car. And what I saw scared me to the depths of my miserable soul. It was true. It was all a sham. It ain't real.
Why would Fuller write to me about the limitations of the simulation? I know the limitations.
I'm asking the questions now. I want to know why. And now I want you to show me what is real. Is this real?
The fact is, though, that neither the pain and fear felt by Douglas Hall, nor the blood flowing from his leg prove that the world he lives in is real. That is because his feelings, and even the blood running down his leg, are merely perception. As the film progresses, we encounter a striking fact. The lives these people imagine to be real are actually part of the simulation. In other words, they are not living in 1999 at all, but in 2024. The characters are connected to a simulator within the simulator, and live lives that all have stunningly convincing similarities with reality in these successive virtual environments. This is like dreaming within a dream. Although there is no material reality in a dream, one may still experience the most realistic-seeming emotions, and may even imagine that one has actually woken up. How can you prove that you are not dreaming at this very moment? What makes real life different from our dreams? How can we prove we are not dreaming at this very moment? In fact, we perceive what we call real life identically as we do our dreams. Both happen in our minds. This is the main cause of the inconsistencies regarding the real world and dreams. Until we wake up, it is impossible to realize that what we see is an illusion. This important point is emphasized in these terms in the Matrix.
Have you ever had a dream, Neo, that you were so sure was real? What if you were unable to wake from that dream? How would you know the difference between the dream world and the real world?
This can't be.
Be what? Be real?
In the film Vanilla Sky, David tells his friend Sophia the effect a dream had on him.
I had a horrible dream. I went downstairs to the car, and my friend had followed me there. She was upset. I don't know. You know, I got in the car, and she drove off a bridge.
I thought you were going straight to work.
But I survived. With my arm and my face reconstructed. And what's worse, I can't wake up.
On close consideration, similar subjects are being dealt with in The Matrix, The 13th Floor, and Vanilla Sky. The worlds inhabited by their characters are actually a simulator environment, and nothing in them is real. There is no need here for eyes with which to see, or ears with which to hear. Thanks to the information loaded into his mind, a person can feel himself in a very different time and place. This is no different to our dreams. In the same way that we leave the world of dreams every morning and return to what we imagine to be reality, the life of this world will also come to an end one day, and our eternal life in the hereafter will begin. God reveals this in a verse. They will say, "Alas for us! Who has raised us from our resting place?" This is what the All-Merciful promised us. The messengers were telling the truth. Our prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, also draws attention to this fact in a hadith. People are asleep and wake up when they die. scientific investigations into the essence of matter. New Scientist is one of the best-known science magazines. Its April 27, 2002 cover story was written by scientist J.R. Minkle, titled The Hollow Universe: Why We All Live in a Hologram, the cover headline reported. To sum up the article, we perceive the world as a single bundle of light. Therefore, it would be a mistake to consider matter as the absolute truth by relying on our perceptions. You're holding a magazine. It feels solid. It seems to have some kind of independent existence in space. Ditto the objects around you, perhaps a cup of coffee, a computer. They all seem real and out there somewhere. But it's all an illusion. Michael Brooks maintains that just like in the film The Matrix, we may be living in a simulation world. In an article entitled "Life's a Sim and Then You're Deleted," Brooks expresses this as follows. No need to wait for Matrix 2 to come out. You could already be living in a giant computer simulation. Of course, you thought The Matrix was fiction, but only because you were meant to. Author Brooks supports his views by quoting philosopher Nick Bostrom of Yale University, who believes that Hollywood movies come much closer to reality than we realize. He calculates, too, that there is some probability that we are living in a simulated or virtual world, as some movies depict. The scientific fact, much better understood in recent years, that we are not interacting with matter itself, causes people to reflect more deeply. This situation, the frequent inspiration for movies, points out that virtual environments recreate realities so realistically that people can be fooled by these illusionary images. Mountains, plains, flowers, people, seas, briefly everything we see, and everything that God in those who do not see this fact in this world will experience intense regret in the hereafter. They will voice their regret when they realize that everything they devoted themselves to during their lives, all the things they chased after in the belief they were real, the people, goods, rank, and titles they regarded as equal to God, in forgetfulness of Him and the hereafter, were in fact illusions and images in their minds. They will suffer intense sorrow as they see how the things they thought would last forever disappear one by one. God reveals the confessions of these people in the hereafter in the Quran. Then they will be asked, "Where are those besides God you associated with Him?" And they will reply, "They have forsaken us." Or rather, we were not calling to anything at all before. That is how God misguides the disbelievers. It is of the utmost importance to understand correctly the secret beyond matter explained throughout this film. Mountains, plains, flowers, people, seas, briefly everything we see, and everything that God informs us in the Quran that He created out of nothing, is created, and does indeed exist. To say that matter is an illusion does not mean that matter does not exist. On the contrary, whether we see it or not, there is a material world. But what we see is a copy of that world, interpreted by our perceptions in our brains. Matter is therefore an illusion for us. What difference will arriving at this truth make to a person? The lives, perspectives, and values of those who realize that we only experience a copy of matter will all change. A person who becomes aware of this will understand that God pervades all places, and that everything takes place by His leave and at His command. His closeness to and fear of God will increase, and consequently he will strictly observe the limits set by God. Everyone who knows that God sees and hears him at all moments, and who understands that he will have to account for his every deed in the hereafter, will naturally possess the finest moral values. Thus everyone in society will treat everyone else with love and respect, and people will compete to behave well. It is clear that matter is an illusion. The only absolute being is Almighty God, who created matter out of nothing. God reveals in the Quran that God, there is no deity but Him, the living, the self-sustaining. He is not subject to drowsiness or sleep. Everything in the heavens and the earth belongs to Him. Who can intercede with Him except by His permission? He knows what is before them and what is behind them, but they cannot grasp any of His knowledge save what He wills. His footstool encompasses the heavens and the earth, and their preservation do not tire Him. He is the Most High, the Magnificent. God bears witness that there is no deity but Him, as do the angels and the people of knowledge upholding justice. There is no deity but Him, the Almighty, the All-Wise. The 21st century is a turning point in history in which this reality will spread among all peoples, and materialism will be wiped from the face of the earth. Some, under the influence of the materialist philosophy, who believed that matter is absolute, now have come to realize that they themselves are illusions, that the only absolute being is God, whose being encompasses all there is. This reality is revealed in the verses. What is in the heavens and in the earth belongs to God. God encompasses all things. Yet those who disbelieve insist on their denial, while God is encircling them from behind. What? Are they in doubt about the meeting with their Lord? What? Does He not encompass all things?